World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel, Night Without Borders. Chapter 271, The True Lineage of Black and White Mountain. Author, Chen Dong. Translator, Shadow Knight AK. Editor, Shadow Knight AK. The master of this realm, Yu Mo, was enveloped in swirling immortal mist. He was genuinely shocked by the news the middle-aged man had brought. It struck his heart like a bolt of lightning. Then how dare you return? Hurry and Yu Mo secretly ordered. The middle-aged man, Lu Bai, replied, I've already warned the white-haired beast to avoid approaching that old man. He added, moreover, we cannot be certain yet. What we are witnessing right now is truly baffling. Yu Mo frowned. 500 years had passed. All matters from that era should have been resolved. Why, then, was dust being stirred up once more? Was another storm about to brew? Just then, young Master Lu, who had briefly stepped away, returned, wearing a look of relief as he said, I went to check. The beast god's bone illuminating mirror suspended over the town showed no anomalies. Upon hearing this, the middle-aged man Lu Bai felt the tension in his heartstrings finally ease. Young Master Lu detailed his findings. After reviewing the mirror's recorded images, he confirmed that the old man showed no signs of disguise, his current state was genuine. That is excellent news, Yu Mo nodded. Despite being the current leader of the Black-White Divine Land, he had felt a chilling dread moments earlier. For a time, his scalp had tingled with fear, treating this as the greatest crisis he had ever faced. I shall take a closer look myself, Lu Bai said. Inside the magnificent hall, distinguished guests mingled, raising their wine glasses in conversation. Many congratulated Yu Mo on the Black and White Mountains' resurgence after 500 years of seclusion. In the past, whenever I wished to pay a visit, I could never even find the entrance, remarked a burly, imposing man. When not shrunk to human size, his true form rivaled the height of a mountain. The Forbidden Realm from which he hailed possessed the highest lineage of the Zhuling Shen, the giant spirit god, lineage. Moreover, even in this era, rumors persisted that a true giant spirit god still lived within that forbidden domain. Indeed, chimed in a silver-white giant rat. I've passed this place countless times. Before its revival, there wasn't a single clue to its existence. Though of humble origins, his clan had long been rooted at the heart of a forbidden land. Legend had it that 800 years ago, their clan had been guarded by a god-slaying rat. Whether that creature had since died of old age remained unknown. Yu Mo sighed, the Black-White Divine Land had fallen into decline. We had no choice but to activate the divine formation to seal the mountain. We've only emerged to catch our breath. The ancient demon, a 9-headed bird, spoke up, you've been far too modest. It's now undeniable that the Black-White Divine Land is the true authority here. This declaration drew surprised glances from many, but out of respect for their host, they nodded in agreement. In truth, many of the old veterans present were well aware of the facts. Tracing back 1,000 years, the true orthodoxy of this territory belonged to the Black and White lineage. However, by the 800-year mark, the region had effectively come under the dominion of the beast god's Black and White Divine Land. However, 500 years ago, a cataclysmic event had reshaped the land. The Black and White lineage is a relic of the past. The Divine Land's orthodoxy is now undisputed, declared a humanoid figure from within a massive, violet sun. Clearly, this being wielded significant authority, his words carried considerable weight. Many knew that the forbidden land he represented had once been inhabited by pure-blooded humans. However, due to drastic physical transformations, they had long since declared their independence. Within that forbidden land, even in ancient times, there had been ancestor-level figures who later underwent transformation. In short, each forbidden land was extraordinary, possessing astonishing origins and terrifying power. The reason they guarded these forbidden lands was that their core regions contained indelible scenes and incomprehensible phenomena of profound significance. These truths, hidden behind the veil of mystery, seemed to point towards something greater. Outside Black and White Town, the white-haired old beast sat frozen in place. Why did Lu Bai, that great figure from the Divine Land, instruct me not to provoke the old man currently seated at the banquet? The beast wondered anxiously. Yet, he had already waded into this murky situation by targeting the young man. Qinming and the old man were seated at the same table. If the white-haired old beast had a choice, it would have avoided trouble altogether. It's fine, just don't involve the old man, young Master Lu secretly transmitted, then retreated. The white-haired old beast's expression darkened. If there's truly nothing to worry about, then why are you backing down? It thought. Its unease intensified when the old man in question happened to look up in its direction, causing its eyelids to twitch involuntarily. Although the old man appeared utterly ordinary on the surface, given that he had been specifically singled out by a great figure, how could he possibly be a mere mortal? Nevertheless, it had already flicked a finger, shattering the letter into fragments. Its attitude was undeniably rude, showing utter disregard for Meng Xinghai and treating the young man before it with contempt. Nearby, many had overheard its earlier words. The youth from the Path of Awakening possessed ancestor-level aptitude. As the fragments of the letter drifted down, many turned to stare. Most of the onlookers were young people, brought by their elders from the Forbidden Lands to experience the world. A young visitor from the Forbidden Lands murmured enviously, "No wonder young Master Lu wants to take him in. With focused training, he could become one of our top enforcers in a few centuries." Yet, amidst this crowd, there were also those harboring intense hostility. "Uncle Bai." A young man stood up, clearly recognizing the white-haired old beast, and approached. He came from the plateau outside Kunling's third forbidden zone, a demon seed sent away for training. At that moment, a young man resembling a noble appeared, wearing a gentle smile. He was a direct descendant of the Black-White Divine Land. He turned to Qinming and said, "Since you're from Black and White Mountain, you're one of us." Second young Master Lu. The white-haired old beast felt an urge to wipe its brow. This young master had clearly come to seize Qinming after hearing the commotion. Did he know the truth? In the distance, young Master Lu stood behind the crowd, watching calmly without approaching. Within the Black-White Divine Land, the four surnames Yu, Lu, Lu, and Wang ruled jointly, comprising both demon race members and humans. Sure enough, upon his arrival, young Master Lu II quickly got straight to the point, asking Qinming if he would be willing to pledge his allegiance and enter the Black and White Divine Land to undergo rigorous cultivation. Qinming politely declined, he had no desire to become trapped in this place. "Are you refusing me?" Second young Master Lu asked with a smile. The white-haired old beast noticed that the great figure hadn't stopped his nephew. Had it been overthinking things? It let out a long breath, concluding that it had simply let its imagination run wild moments ago, needlessly scaring itself in the process. Every living being within the entire domain of the Black and White Mountain is our subject. To act as you are doing now is hardly a wise choice, young Master Lu II remarked, his smile still firmly in place. Qinming shook his head and said, "I have merely lived on Black and White Mountain for 2 years, I am not a native of this place." He had already made himself quite clear, though he was merely offering the other party a graceful way out. Why should he, as a local, be expected to obey their will? Evidently, while the upper echelons of the Black and White Divine Realm spoke grandly of governing their subjects, in reality, they viewed the local inhabitants as nothing more than servants. The white-haired old beast felt completely reassured. After waiting so long without any major figures intervening to stop second young Master Lu, it was clear there was nothing to worry about. Qinming produced another letter. "I am a disciple of the Shan Mountain and River Academy," he declared. In this place, humility and modesty were useless. He was forced to flex his strength. The white-haired old beast accepted the letter. "Yu Zhensheng and Zhao Ziwan of the Shan Mountain and River Academy," he mused, two renowned figures on the path of awakening. "Their cultivation is quite profound. So what?" Second young Master Lu retorted. "This is a domestic affair of our Black and White Divine Realm." The white-haired old beast smiled faintly, turning to Qinming. "Being on Black and White Mountain is your good fortune. Don't be ungrateful." Qinming spoke solemnly, "There are some things I need to clarify to avoid any misjudgment on your part." "What is it you wish to say?" Second, young Master Lu asked. Qinming produced a jade token. "This was given to me by a founding ancestor of the Path of Awakening." Back in Kunling, Lu Zizai had given him several jade tokens, explaining that once he reached a certain cultivation level, he could use them to enter the ancestral courts of various sects. Qinming retrieved one of the jade tokens. In a place like this, status was self-proclaimed. He needed to make a grand display, gilding his reputation and temporarily forging a golden body for himself. Second young Master Lu watched him silently. The white-haired old beast sneered, "What do you think you're doing? Do you really believe that possessing a token from the ancestral court of the one sect gives you the right to disrespect the master of this land? Besides, who's to say that the token is even genuine?" As it spoke, it snatched the token and activated it with a surge of energy. Instantly, an ancient seal flared to life, radiating an unfathomable heavenly light that illuminated the surroundings. The white-haired old beast's hand trembled, nearly dropping the token. It waited patiently for the heavenly light to fade, daring not to move rashly. The token appeared genuine, originating from the 6th Imperial Ancestral Court. "Do you still intend to shatter it with a flick of your finger?" Qinming asked. The white-haired old beast's expression darkened. It didn't dare, yet it refused to back down. Even a jade token from the Awakening Path Ancestral Court can't interfere with a divine land. Its meaning was clear, the Black-White Divine Land feared no ancestral court of the one sect. "How about another one?" Qinming produced a second jade token and offered it. The white-haired old beast froze. It reached out and activated the token, unleashing a unique Tathagata heavenly light. In an instant, its fur bristled, utterly shocked. "If that's not enough, I'll show you another one," Qinming declared, this time activating a jade token himself. "Jade pure heavenly light." Someone gasped. The white-furred old beast felt completely paralyzed with dread. This young man carried tokens from the ancestral courts of all three great sects, openly making a move against him was simply out of the question, not even with the backing of the Black and White Divine Land. Young Master Lu's expression shifted slightly as well. Although his own status was exceedingly high, when confronted with jade tokens representing the three great ancestral courts, he found himself unable to make things difficult for the young man standing before him. Indeed, Brother Qin. Since emerging from Black and White Mountain, you have actually forged a benevolent bond with the three sects. You truly live up to your reputation as a paragon of talent nurtured by this very land. Second young Master Lu approached with a gentle demeanor, placing a hand on Qinming's shoulder. In truth, if Qinming truly enjoyed such close ties with the ancestral courts of the three sects, he would be worthy of sitting down as an equal to share a drink, rather than being treated merely as a subject or a servant. You flatter me, Qinming replied modestly. Since strength and status were paramount here, he had no choice but to flaunt his connections to enhance his reputation. Aside from the six imperial ancestral court, he had little actual contact with the other sects. These jade tokens were favors Lu Zizai had pulled, perhaps gifts Lu Zizai had received in the past and passed on to him. For now, displaying these tokens was enough. Have you seen enough? Would you like another one? Qinming asked, turning to the white-haired old beast. What does this mean? Can he just pull out another one? The white-haired old beast muttered suspiciously, but he dared not treat the jade token lightly and returned it. At that moment, second young Master Lu received a telepathic message from his uncle, Lu Bai. After a moment, his expression stiffened slightly as he grasped part of the truth. The old man ahead, could his identity be in doubt? He looks exactly like that person from all those years ago. His mood instantly soured. No wonder the sixth young master hadn't shown his face, he truly was a cunning schemer. Even his uncle, Lu Bai, had only dared to test the waters through him before backing off, fearing the slightest chance of disaster. Young Master Lu wanted nothing more than to turn and flee immediately. But while he remained silent, someone else grew restless. The young demon seed from the plateau outside the third forbidden zone glared at Qinming with undisguised hostility. He had long heard of Qinming's extensive demon hunting on the plateau. Stepping forward, he declared, since we've crossed paths, I challenge you to a contracted duel today. You invite us to your feast, and this is how you treat your guests. Old Lu interjected. As Old Lu turned his head, Lu Bai, hidden in the shadows, froze. He noticed a crimson mole near Old Lu's ear, triggering a long-forgotten legend in his mind. 500 years ago, before Lu Bai was even born, he had only seen portraits of that legendary figure after reaching adulthood. Back then, an ancestor from the Divine Land had spoken at length about the minute physical characteristics of this colossal figure who could overturn the Black-White Divine Land, specifically mentioning a crimson mole. At that moment, Lu Bai's mind reeled as if struck by a thunderbolt, he felt as though his head were about to explode. He immediately instructed his nephew to restrain the young demon seed. Then, he secretly communicated with Yu Mo at the heart of Black and White Town. Go, summon the ancestor at once. He must come personally to verify this man's identity. Yu Mo's expression was unprecedentedly grave. After all, he was merely the current administrator of the Divine Land in this area. Within the Black and White Divine Land, there naturally remained figures who had survived from 5 centuries past, the direct disciples of the Beast God himself, peerless powerhouses whose cultivation had long since reached a realm of profound, world-shaping mastery. A short while later, that very ancestor emerged from his secluded retreat. Moving with utter silence, a middle-aged man appeared on the scene. He observed the figure before him from the shadows, his fingers trembling slightly within the voluminous sleeves of his robe. What he beheld was absolutely identical to the man of 500 years ago, even that distinctive red mole remained utterly unchanged. He inevitably found his thoughts drifting back to the cataclysm of years past. He couldn't help but recall the cataclysmic events of that era. His master, the Beast God, hadn't fought alone, he had summoned 2 peak experts from other forbidden lands. Yet, the result. 500 years ago, that man had suffered from a grave physical affliction, he had even torn out his own divine bones and stripped away his own immortal skin. Yet, even in such a state, his aura had been mighty enough to swallow the very Black and White Divine Land whole. The ancestor couldn't suppress a shudder at the memory of that battle. It's him. The master of the Black and White lineage. When the Beast God's heir emerged from seclusion and personally confirmed this judgment, Yu Mo's scalp went numb. Had this man come to blockade their gates again, just as the Divine Land was about to resurface? His body is indeed afflicted, right now, he is truly nothing more than an ordinary old man, Lu Bai stated. Should the day ever come when he reappears in this world, regardless of the state he is in, you must, under no circumstances, provoke him. To do otherwise would surely spell the ruin of the Divine Land. The founding ancestor of the Divine Land spoke, repeating the Beast God's dying words. This. Yu Mo and Lu Bai felt a chill seep into their minds as they heard this warning, one they had never heard before. Had they known this, they would never have allowed the divine land to emerge now. Lu Bai stepped forward personally, maintaining a facade of composure as he delivered a sharp slap to the head of the second young master Lu, saying, "Guests from afar should be treated with respect. You're truly lacking in manners." He then dismissed the young demon seed. Immediately thereafter, he took matters into his own hands, delivering a resounding slap that shattered the jaw of the white-furred ancient beast. "I told you to treat our guests with courtesy. Who gave you the audacity to stir up trouble right here?" he roared. The white-haired old beast's jaw shattered, racked with unbearable pain. Its heart pounded with terror. What kind of being had it unwittingly provoked this time? Lu Bai sensed the old man at the banquet table watching him. For a moment, his heart nearly stopped beating. Could I have gone too far? He felt a chilling dread as he realized he might have awakened this ancient being. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel, Night Without Borders. Chapter 272, The Old God Grins. Author, Chen Dong. Translator, Shadow Knight AK. Editor, Shadow Knight AK. Lu Bai could hear the blood rushing through his veins, his heart pounding too fast, a knot of anxiety tightening in his chest. After all, this was the old monster capable of overturning the black-white divine land. Even the founding ancestor had quietly retreated, pushing Lu Bai forward as a shield. Naturally, he felt utterly unprepared. In truth, old Lu was also somewhat flustered. Having grown up outside Black and White Mountain, how could he not have heard the legends surrounding this place? Yet his expression remained calm. If Xiao Qin could maintain composure and politely decline, handling the situation with grace, how could he, at his age, panic? He needed to be even more composed. Not only that, old Lu even flashed a faint, toothy grin. Holy hell! Lu Bai trembled inwardly. An old god's grin meant unpredictable consequences. To him, that faint smile was like the gaping maw of a monstrous beast emerging from a pitch-black abyss, its bloodthirsty gaze fixed on the entire divine land, drool dripping from its fangs. The sight was almost unbearable. His hand trembled uncontrollably. To conceal his fear, he slapped his nephew across the face with a sharp crack. Second young master Lu seethed with resentment. With so many guests present, how could his uncle humiliate him like this? His cheek was already swelling. If this weren't his own uncle, he'd fight him to the death. The white-haired old beast received another slap, this time cracking its skull. It felt its brain matter about to spill out, the pain unbearable, its belly burning with rage and humiliation, yet it dared not retaliate. Today is a joyous occasion, Lu Bai said, raising his wine cup with practiced formality. Please forgive our inadequate hospitality. Many looked bewildered. Most of the guests were young disciples. Did the black-white divine land's dignitaries truly value them so highly? Even the rulers of outside dynasties, upon arriving here, had to rise and toast the people of the forbidden land. The founding ancestor of the black-white divine land frowned deeply. 500 years. And it still hasn't eradicated this decrepit, gravely wounded monster. This creature had severed its own divine status, survived a great battle, and yet still lived. In that battle, the beast god had been mortally wounded and vanished. It would be best if he remained utterly lost, the founding ancestor muttered to himself. Let him never awaken. Outside Black and White Town, Lu Bai moved subtly through the crowd, exchanging brief, smiling greetings with some and offering encouragement to younger disciples. The white-haired old beast felt suffocated. He was actually being forced to pour wine and apologize. In the outside world, he had been the renowned mountain lord, a sovereign of his domain. Old Lu pondered, the dignitaries of the black-white divine land are remarkably amiable. In the night mist world, while not strictly governed by the law of the jungle, it was close enough, with everything brutally pragmatic. Is Lu Bai genuinely wandering around this area by chance, or is he being deliberately approachable? Some speculated that Qin Ming's display of the jade token from the three sects, ancestral court had earned him the Black and White Mountains' respect. After all, the pathfinders from the outside world were a band of madmen, daring to carve through forbidden lands and even slay divine spirits, currently the dominant force in the night mist world. Old Lu, however, held a different view. While attending the banquet, he overheard whispers that even the renowned beast god had been vanquished 500 years ago. He then recalled Qin Ming's earlier words and the blood-stained ancient kite that had flown in from afar, and his mind drifted into a daze. Could it be that the black-white divine land is wary? Old Lu murmured to himself, it feels like a familiar swallow returning home. Lu Bai nearly dropped his wine cup. Such a terrifying remark. For the old man to suddenly blurt out something like that, did it signify that an awakening was imminent? He realized he couldn't let this continue. If the old man lingered here much longer, he might truly trigger some horrific memories. Old Lu glanced at Lu Bai, then at the outskirts of Black and White Town, his brow furrowing imperceptibly. He immediately sensed Lu Bai's unease. Having learned much already, old Lu dared to meet the gaze of the powerful figure before him. Lu Bai, however, remained wary, unwilling to probe further. Arrange a fresh table, Lu Bai ordered, forcing the white-haired old beast to apologize again. His primary concern was preventing the distinguished guests in Black and White Town from noticing the commotion. The white-haired old beast's rage surged, but he was powerless to resist, his head forced down in submission. Qinming correctly surmised that the sudden shift in Lu Bai's attitude was likely due to old Lu's presence. The red squirrel was utterly bewildered. The white-haired mountain lord had toasted them twice and arranged for them to stay in a spacious, ornately decorated room. Looking at all this, it feels as though yesterday were right before my eyes. It feels very familiar, old Lu remarked, a hint of familiarity in his voice. He felt a faint sense of strangeness, but it was far from any true awakening or recollection. Yet within the black-white divine land, the founding ancestor tensed completely. What should I do? He's really returning. The key figures of the black and white divine land ceased making appearances altogether, choosing instead to feign death. They feared that the more they spoke, the more mistakes they might make, and the more they might inadvertently trigger further memories within that fearsome god. Old man Lu was well aware of the situation. Moreover, while within the black and white divine land, he did indeed feel an increasing sense of ease. His mind was at peace, exuding a composure that stemmed from the very depths of his soul. He asked, Xiao Qin, are you currently seeking demonic essence? Yes, Qinming nodded. Old Lu replied, I recall there being a legendary grade demonic essence here. I wonder if it still exists. Deep within the black-white divine land, the atmosphere was tense. Key figures felt a sense of oppression, unable to discern the man's true intentions. Is he demanding demonic essence? Are there any left in the divine land? Otherwise, let's just send one over. There's still one. Moments later, second young Master Lu and young Master Lu were dispatched. Their expressions were complex as they personally delivered a jade box, presenting it as a gift. We apologize for our earlier attitude, they said, carefully avoiding any mention of the cataclysmic events of 500 years ago, instead offering their apologies for recent misunderstandings. Qinming accepted the gift without ceremony and immediately opened the jade box to inspect its contents. Inside lay a massive turtle, radiating an aura of formidable power. Wisps of malevolent energy emanated from it, piercing Qinming's skin like iron needles. He quickly suppressed the malevolent energy, preventing Old Lu and Red Squirrel from being overwhelmed and revealing their weakness. Upon closer inspection, the old tortoise's shell was covered in dense, Dao-infused runes, with a snake coiled around its back. It was unmistakably the black tortoise form of a demonic essence. Without a doubt, this was a legendary otherworldly essence, priceless beyond measure. The jade box contained sealing runes that suppressed its true form, otherwise, its size would surely exceed its current dimensions. For Qinming, this was a tangible benefit, a means to enhance his cultivation and break through his current bottleneck. In the end, Qinming, Old Lu, and Red Squirrel, slightly tipsy, traversed the misty region under the old panda's escort, departing from the black-white divine land. He has likely not yet fully awakened, yet. His presence remains utterly terrifying. This old man feels a distinct sense of unease, the founding ancestor murmured deep within the divine land, wiping sweat from his brow. The memory of his master's bloodied, mangled body still haunted him, causing him to tremble at the mere thought. He spoke aloud, the time has come for you all to deliberate. Shall we undertake a mass migration, or shall we continue to keep our mountain gates sealed? The fate of our founder, the beast god ancestor, whether he lives or dies, remains a complete mystery. Where, exactly, did he go? Yu Mo asked. That, too, is something I do not know. The ancestor replied, shaking his head. The straw-hatted old panda was exceedingly polite, going to great lengths to escort the two humans and their beast all the way out of the great mountain, even nearing the village entrance. The villagers were visibly startled by the sight of the black and white bear, a strange beast far beyond their understanding, approaching their village. Elder, my ancestors have lived in these mountains since the days of the black and white lineage, the old panda said before departing. Old Lu merely waved his hand in response. Woof, woof. In the courtyard, Old Yellow Dog wagged its tail and rushed out, barking at the retreating black and white bear. Without a word, Old Lu kicked the dog twice, sending it sprawling back into its kennel. In the distance, the founding ancestor of the black-white divine land had personally followed them out, standing atop a towering mountain peak. At that moment, he felt an icy chill run through his body. In a daze, he saw the old man standing before the black and white twin trees grin in his direction. Uncle Lu, will you come with me? Qinming asked quietly. Old Lu shook his head. My roots are here. At my age, where else would I go? If I die, I'll be buried on Black and White Mountain. Qinming hesitated, wanting to say more but stopping himself. I know what you're thinking, Old Lu said. Don't worry. I'm fine now. They're the ones who should be afraid. In truth, Qinming felt that as long as the blood-stained kite continued to fly above the village and the strange force that had humbled even Cao Qianqiu remained, no major trouble would come to this place. He also pondered what state old Lu had been in for most of the past 500 years. After all, Lu Mo's memories only began from his amnesiac youth. Under the cover of night, Qinming departed, setting out alone. The red squirrel leapt onto old Lu's shoulder, waving its tiny paw. Considering the extraordinary technique he had passed down and the chance he had given him to see the black-white divine land, it had decided to forgive him for destroying its home. Who am I? Lu Mo. Anyone who dares to cause trouble on Black and White Mountain will die. Old Lu faced the great mountain as he spoke, his face obscured by the darkness. At that moment, Inspirational Squirrel felt a newfound respect for the old man's unwavering spirit. However, the instant they returned to the courtyard, old Lu's demeanor instantly softened. Little Pine, did I act convincingly just now? Lu Mo asked with a grin. Traveling alone, Qinming deeply understood the hardships faced by ordinary people living in the pitch-black world. His senses were now razor-sharp, and he repeatedly sensed unseen, intangible presences nearby. Fortunately, no danger materialized. But as he passed through the desert he had once traversed, a deathly pale figure materialized beside him, sending a chill down his spine. He activated his awakening eye, otherwise, he would have seen nothing at all. Refraining from provoking the entity, he continued on his way, avoiding the desert's depths where the palm-bright pig resided. Soon, the pale figure vanished on its own. Could there be undiscovered yet real creatures lurking in the various layers of the night mist world, beyond our perception? Yin spirits, Jiangshi, and others. Qinming suspected that the old itinerant merchants who traveled the night roads year after year might no longer be their original selves. That day, he arrived safely at Kaisha City, where he had lived for a considerable time and knew every corner well. In the familiar living room of the city lord's mansion, mind-soothing incense burned slowly in a bronze censer, its smoke calming restlessness and cleansing the mind of worldly dust. Uncle Meng, Qinming called out warmly. Meng Xinghai replied, you rascal. Disappearing again. Where'd you run off to these past few days? People have been sending messages here looking for you. Qinming grinned. I went to a feast in a forbidden land. Meng Xinghai frowned. Don't joke about such things. The waters in those forbidden lands run deep. Even top-tier founding ancestors wouldn't dare trespass recklessly. Qinming nodded. He had some understanding of the forbidden lands himself, knowing that certain ones were even inhabited by pioneering ancestors whose bodies had undergone transformation. He didn't hide anything from Meng Xinghai, recounting his recent experiences in detail. Even old Meng, who hailed from a millennial clan, was stunned. A divine being who had escaped from Jade Capital had apparently taken up residence in a remote region. Uncle Meng, Qinming said, this stays between us. Don't spread it around. Meng Xinghai nodded solemnly. He thought he should pay his respects to the divine spirit someday, to think such a legendary being was residing within his jurisdiction. You actually feasted in a forbidden land. He marveled. Even many former sages never had such an opportunity. He then handed Qinming 2 letters. One of the letters was from Xiao Wu, who wanted to confirm Qinming had arrived safely in Kaisha City. Wu Yaozu and Shang Yiwu were thriving in the great Yu imperial capital, like fish in water. They frequented the painted barges on the Shuyu River, strolled through nightless street, and even spent a fortune to ascend to the moon. Everyone knew the moon hung in the sky above the great Yu imperial capital, but reaching it required an astronomical sum. Brother Ming, that delegation seems like trouble. The Sun Elf clan is actually cultivating the immortal path. Xiao Wu hadn't forgotten to mention business matters amidst his leisurely life. This time, the delegation wants to invite people from beyond the mortal realm to collaborate on excavating divine tombs and immortal tombs. Qinming read this passage, his mind drifting. Is this how the Sun Elf clan embarked on the immortal path? And they're actively inviting outsiders to excavate, the very thing those on the immortal path covet. Qinming opened the second letter, his expression changed instantly, and he shot to his feet. It was rare for him to display such agitation. For the letter bore the signature of his grandfather, and, alongside it, the names of his parents, whom he had absolutely no recollection of. This sudden, unexpected letter threw his thoughts into disarray. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel, Night Without Borders. Chapter 273, Even Divine Spirit Being Retreat. Author, Chen Dong. Translator, Shadow Knight AK. Editor, Shadow Knight AK. Outside the window, a sudden downpour lashed against the roof tiles with a chaotic, clattering rhythm, a soundscape that mirrored Qinming's own state of mind, which had fallen into turmoil. Upon seeing the letter, Meng Xinghai's immediate reaction was that someone was attempting to bait them. The probability of this was quite high. Qinming's rise to prominence had been meteoric, and perhaps certain parties could no longer sit idly by. The night was as dark as ink, and dense raindrops pounded against the window, sending up wisps of mist. Qinming's judgment was clouded by his deep concern. He had long been consumed by the worry that his grandfather's lifespan was drawing to a close, a fear that he might never see him again. On the smooth paper, the handwriting was unmistakably familiar. During his awakening, Qinming had repeatedly entered dreams to relive his childhood memories. What now lay before his eyes was, indeed, his grandfather's own hand. He took a deep breath, quickly calming himself. Only a clear mind could handle such matters. Meng Xinghai set down his teacup. Don't panic. If they're trying to bait you, it means some people are already losing their patience. Qinming nodded, his focus sharpening as he attempted to resonate with the letter. In an instant, he confirmed its authenticity. The letter overflowed with his grandfather's intense emotions, his reluctance to part with Qinming and his deep concern for the boy's well-being. Child, Grandpa is ill and can no longer care for you. The letter was over a decade old, written by an elderly man in patched, worn-out clothes, his health clearly failing. Qinming's heartstrings trembled as he gazed upon this, scene from the past. Under the dim glow of an oil lamp, the old man coughed as he slowly wrote a letter. Grandpa told you he might have 10 years left, but now it seems he won't even make it that long. If I had a choice, I wouldn't entrust you to anyone else's care. You're still so young, and you're the one thing Grandpa can't bear to leave behind. Someone has taken an interest in you and promises to treat you well. Grandpa is leaving now to search for your parents, hoping they're still alive and will come for you someday. The old man's body trembled, and he coughed up blood. Child, live well, grow up healthy, and stay safe. Though Grandpa longs to see you marry and have children, I no longer dare to hope that I will live to see that day. The old man's hands were terribly withered and frail, his grip on the brush was unsteady, trembling with every cough, causing ink to splatter across the paper time and again. You're so young. Grandpa can't bear to leave you. Evidently, the old man had taken this letter with him rather than leaving it behind. At the time, Qinming was far too young to understand it anyway. The letter mentioned several town names, all distant places, likely the direction his parents had traveled. Qinming quietly held the ink-stained letter, reading it over and over again. Only then did he turn to his parents' letter. It contained no emotional traces, making it impossible to sense their feelings. The letter listed place names and routes, all extremely remote, roughly reaching the outer fringes of the great pioneering era's frontier territories. According to the letter, his parents had gone in pursuit of the traces of a founding ancestor of the Silk Book technique. Having temporarily resolved their own personal troubles, they had returned to their ancestral home, only to discover the previous letter left there, yet they found no sign of the old man himself. The letter continued, stating that a founding ancestor of the Silk Book technique might still be alive. They had discovered crucial clues and were determined to follow the trail, meaning they wouldn't be returning for some time. His parents' letter also listed several distant place names, indicating they had ventured deep into the night mist world. Meng Xinghai shook his head. This is unreliable. Qinming remained silent. He believed his grandfather's letter was genuine, but his parents' letter seemed questionable. The first letter had been filled with intense emotion and familial affection, while the latter lacked any such resonance. Fearing Qinming might act rashly, Meng Xinghai said, I'll have someone investigate this. It might take a long time. Don't rush into anything. Even if it's true, going there now won't change anything. Qinming felt a hollow emptiness in his chest. He nodded slowly and carefully folded the letter away. Does this so-called ancestral home even exist? He wondered silently. Where did grandfather go? Could he really have survived this long? The thought made his chest tighten. His greatest fear, of course, was whether this letter had actually reached his parents' hands. If not, he didn't dare imagine the consequences. Did the Kui clan intercept this letter years ago? Qinming sat motionless, clenching his fists. It was all because his strength was insufficient to confront the Kui clan directly and demand the truth. The Kui clan's founding ancestor was the one who had achieved the deepest understanding of the sustaining world scripture. He had lived for an extraordinarily long time, already exceeding 500 years. Some signs suggested that this person had already entered the sixth realm. Outside the window, torrential rain poured down, the night as dark as an abyss. When lightning flashed, the world appeared as a single sheet of water. Qinming rose, intending to meditate. In an instant, he vanished into the pitch-black rainy night. Meng Xinghai, worried, followed after him. Soon, he had to rush forward to stop Qinming. He discovered that Qinming had broken into the Thunder Fire Alchemy Hall, preparing to endure the bombardment of the Thunder Fire Heavenly Light. Is this what you call meditation? Meng Xinghai asked, naturally concerned. This was the most violent thunder fire of late summer, capable of destroying a person's cultivation foundation. Uncle Meng, I'm fine. I've already experienced this in Kunling, Qinming replied. Then, to Meng Xinghai's astonishment, Qinming calmly sat down in the golden hall, allowing the heavenly light to engulf him. He remained motionless, seated in a meditative posture. After a night of enduring the thunder and refining his body, Qinming's mood had improved considerably. He heeded Meng Xinghai's advice, refraining from acting rashly. Instead, he sent people to investigate and uncover the truth through various channels. That day, he secluded himself to adjust his state and study the scriptures of the extraordinary techniques. It wasn't until the following day that he emerged from his room and arranged a small gathering with acquaintances. In a private room at a wine house, Wu Zheng's face shone with admiration. Even in this remote corner of the world, he had heard tales of Kunling. "Brother Ming, you're the goal I'll chase for the rest of my life," he declared, convinced that Qin Ming had already surpassed his ancestors, who were masters of both spear and bow. "Mere empty fame, what truly matters is living one's own life with comfort and ease," Qin Ming replied. "How can you call it empty fame? It's a testament to your true strength, the achievements you forged on the Kunling Plateau," Xu Sheng countered. He never could have imagined that the young boy he had brought from the remote Black and White Mountain during his days as a traveling merchant would become so extraordinary, capable of overpowering even some immortal seeds. "Xiao Qin, I was truly stunned when I heard the news," Zhou Lin, known as Sister Fenfang, said. She recalled the days when she, Qin Ming, and Xu Sheng had hunted together in the great mountain outside Kaisha City, gathering spiritual substances. It felt like only yesterday, yet now Xiao Qin's name echoed across Kunling. "Congratulations, Brother Xu and Sister Fen. Zhou Lin, on your marriage," Qin Ming said, raising his cup with a smile. Seeing the two of them together wasn't entirely unexpected. Afterward, Qin Ming asked Xu Sheng about the traveling merchants. "Xiao Qin, if you have a choice, avoid traveling at night. The traveling merchants throughout history have learned this the hard way. Just 2 months ago, my master bid me farewell and vanished." Xu Sheng's simple words made Qin Ming set down his wine cup, and Wu Zheng shivered involuntarily. "My master said he was over 100 years old and that it was time for him to return to the depths of the night mist. He warned me not to become a traveling merchant, or I'd end up like him." This. Qin Ming was lost in thought, pressing for details. Xu Sheng replied, "My master didn't elaborate much. He only mentioned a few things, warning me that ordinary people in the night mist world only see the surface. The truth is terrifying. There are too many unknowns and horrors." After years of traveling at night, he was barely himself anymore. He had to leave, to return to where he belonged. As the night deepened, they left the tavern. At their parting, Wu Zheng asked, "Brother Ming, will you ever come back? We won't see you again, will we?" Sister Fenfang replied, "Even if you can't meet in person, I'm sure you'll hear news of Xiao Qin often. He'll eventually become renowned throughout the night mist world." In the dead of night, Qin Ming felt a thunderous roar, and his body violently shook. To his astonishment, he discovered that his consciousness, enveloped in a blazing sun-like heavenly light, had detached from his physical form. It was as if a mysterious force, like a gale wind sweeping across the heavens or a surging ocean tide, had passed over Kaisha City, violently shaking his consciousness, which had been rooted in the heavenly light, out of his body's orifices. He quickly wrapped himself in the tattered cloth for protection and rushed to the window, gazing up at the night sky. In fact, he wasn't the only one. Meng Xinghai's divine wisdom light had also separated from his body. He stood on the rooftop, his expression grave as he peered into the distance. "Oh, great beast, I harbor absolutely no disrespect toward you. I merely came to this place to engage in spiritual contemplation for a little over a month. I have no intention of laying claim to this territory." High in the night sky, a colossal silver pangolin bowed repeatedly in the direction of Black and White Mountain before turning to flee into the distance in a rather undignified manner. Meng Xinghai confirmed that it was a powerful spiritual entity, at least at the peak of the fifth realm, that had been lurking beneath the city and had now been frightened away. Qin Ming stared blankly. Was Kaisha City naturally a magnet for demons? Last time, a massive blue centipede had come here seeking godhood. Now, a terrifying pangolin had fled from this very place. At the edge of the horizon, a blood-stained kite drifted, seemingly fragile yet capable of scaring away the pure yang consciousness of a giant demon. That night, the Three-Eyed Sect, which had a significant following in the region, received a divine decree. Its most devout high-ranking members were ordered to withdraw completely from the area encompassed by Black and White Mountain, including Kaisha City, Maple Leaf City, and other settlements. The Three-Eyed Sect's high command in the region was utterly shaken. A divine being retreating, abandoning its followers in this territory. To them, this was utterly terrifying. Xiao Qin, that pangolin was just paying homage to Black and White Mountain, right? Meng Xinghai asked as he landed beside Qin Ming. That's right. Qin Ming nodded solemnly. Looks like I need to pay my respects to the divine spirit there sooner rather than later, Meng Xinghai remarked. A mountain cannot harbor two tigers, nor can a territory accommodate two gods. The situation at Black and White Mountain was clearly becoming increasingly unusual. Is Kaisha City particularly special? Qin Ming asked. First, a great centipede dies here, and now a pangolin shows up. Meng Xinghai replied, it is somewhat special. During the Great Pioneering Era, Dao lineages of godlike beings were unearthed here, at least 2 of them. That's why some creatures covet this sacred ground, hoping to achieve godhood here. This was also why Meng Xinghai had come to serve as city lord. As a practitioner of the divine path himself, observing this unique terrain in advance would naturally yield immense benefits. Meng Xinghai merely sought to experience this place, he had no intention of refining the city for his own use. Moreover, with the esoteric sect system becoming increasingly refined, the process of becoming a divine spirit no longer required confinement to a single location. Meng Xinghai revealed, it is said that on the divine path of the present, certain peerless powerhouses have shattered the confines of their local domains. They now traverse various realms, their powers rivaling the very forces of creation, not for the sake of becoming gods, but solely to forge new paths. Qin Ming's expression turned solemn upon hearing this. Those who had reached the forefront of each path must possess terrifying power beyond imagination. 2 days later, Xiaowu sent a message informing Qin Ming that beyond the mortal realm would likely seek external assistance. Their second realm immortal seed might be unable to suppress the Sun Elf. After all, Immortal Path disciples only truly began to engage with pure yang transformation from the third realm onward, undergoing tribulation crossing or nourishing their consciousness with immortal fire. In the second realm, Immortal Path disciples remained vulnerable to burns from heavenly fire and the blazing sun, unable to withstand such forces. The distant envoy was rumored to be sun elves who bathed in the great yang's flames. In the second realm, their consciousness spiritual light naturally countered that of the Immortal Path. Brother Ming, these people are wicked but rich. Prepare yourself, Xiaowu summarized succinctly. Deep within the night mist world lay a region known as the Divine Tomb and Immortal Tomb. The Sun Elf clan openly admitted their inability to manage this area alone, prompting them to send envoys to beyond the mortal realm, a land they had previously contacted, to negotiate potential cooperation. During these negotiations, the high command of both sides would engage in philosophical discussions, while mid and lower level members would engage in sparring matches. These discussions and competitions would ultimately determine the final distribution of benefits. As expected, a letter from the Beyond the Mortal Realm soon arrived, inviting Qin Ming to attend a grand gathering in the Great Yu imperial capital to exchange knowledge with civilizations from the outer realm. Qin Ming scoffed. Why don't they just ask for help directly? Do they expect me to be their free muscle? In the Great Yu imperial capital, representatives from the Beyond the Mortal Realm sought out Wu Yaozu, only to be met with his disdainful glare. You broke your word last time, still owing Brother Ming the vermilion bird demonic essence. Now he's forced to venture into the deep mountains and swamps, searching for otherworldly essence. He probably doesn't have time for your gathering. That can be arranged. Xiaowu immediately retorted, no, it can't. Brother Ming doesn't have time. He needs to gather 4 or 5 legendary grade demonic essence before he can leave the Great Mountain. But isn't he in Kaisha City? Brother Ming is temporarily staying there, but he still has to work hard every day, venturing into the mountains to hunt demonic essence. The representatives from the Beyond the Mortal Realm wanted to spit in his face. Demoic essence near Kaisha City. There's not a single one listed in the demonic registry. If you want Brother Ming to come out of seclusion and help you, just resolve his lingering concerns, Xiaowu said. You all know how difficult it is to break through the path of awakening. He can't afford to waste any time. The people from Beyond the Mortal Realm bypassed the extortionist and sent a message to Kaisha City via Thunderbird. Meng Xinghai read the letter, nodded, and said, it's true that the world's powers are converging on the Great Yu imperial capital. The grand exchange between civilizations is about to begin. It's definitely worth witnessing. He then asked, what demonic essence do you still need? Could it be the rare 4 sacred demonic essence? Those are extremely difficult to find. I'll negotiate with them and see what I can do. Qin Ming shook his head. I already have the yin-yang diagram, which allows me to manifest the 4 symbols. What he truly sought was a demonic essence from the 5 elements domain, one that would correspond with the 5 elements divine techniques he had cultivated. In truth, with the yin-yang diagram, he didn't strictly need the 5 elements demonic essence. But he wouldn't mind having another complete, cyclical system of demonic essence. After all, most techniques in the world fall within the 5 elements. If Qin Ming were to unleash the 5-colored light wheel, it would be a truly awe-inspiring display. The more they know you want something, the more they'll try to exploit you, Meng Xinghai warned. We need to strategize how to deal with them. Qin Ming said, I possess the black tortoise and white tiger from the 4 sacred demonic essence, corresponding to water and metal, respectively. I also have a wisp of starfire essence. Meng Xinghai was astonished. Such otherworldly essences were exceedingly rare. This young man had already quietly collected 3. As expected, the representatives from Beyond the Mortal Realm engaged in endless correspondence and haggling with Meng Xinghai. This was to prevent Qin Ming from refining the legendary demonic essence, fearing that if he later became a founding ancestor, he would be difficult to control. Meng Xinghai remained patient, slowly negotiating with them. Within the Thunder Fire Alchemy Hall, Qin Ming sat in meditation, contemplating the yin-yang diagram. The 2 extremes could generate the 4 symbols, transforming into the Great Yin, Great Yang, Lesser Yin, and Lesser Yang, which corresponded to the vermilion bird, white tiger, and the other 4 sacred demonic essences. As the adage goes, the great Tao seeks simplicity. Having obtained the black and white fish and formally dotted its eyes to activate the perfect yin-yang diagram, he had already achieved enough. As he evolved the yin-yang diagram to a certain level, it would naturally become more complex, giving rise to the 4 symbols and the 8 trigrams. For now, he could barely manifest the 4 symbols diagram. With a whoosh, the yin-yang diagram transformed. The great yin, great yang, lesser yin, and lesser yang began to take shape, coalescing into the hazy forms of the black tortoise, vermilion bird, white tiger, and azure dragon. Meng Xinghai's expression turned solemn as he witnessed this extraordinary sight. He nodded inwardly, recognizing that concealing the yin-yang with the 4 symbols was ideal, preventing premature attention from those on the immortal path. He remarked, "You're still struggling to manifest these forms, but that's actually better. The current indistinctness of the 4 symbols will lead them to believe that the 4 demonic essences you've found haven't reached legendary status. It needs to be more realistic," Qinming murmured, continuously refining the 4 symbols diagram. The forms should coalesce and disperse at will. Finally, the yin-yang fish vanished completely, replaced by the distinct 4 sacred demonic essences rotating around him. The vermilion bird, black tortoise, azure dragon, and white tiger resonated in harmony, guarding the 4 cardinal directions, a truly awe-inspiring spectacle. Qinming resolved to never reveal even this level of the 4 sacred demonic essences unless necessary. That very day, Old Meng successfully concluded his negotiations with the realm beyond. The following day, Qinming and Meng Xinghai took their seats upon the back of a high-tier exotic avian creature, setting off toward the Great Yu, a journey that would take them into a land of turbulent winds and shifting tides. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel, Night Without Borders. Chapter 274, Encountering 3 Immortal Maidens. Author, Chen Dong. Translator, Shadow Knight AK. Editor, Shadow Knight AK. With the disappearance of the sun, more than 90% of the land had become a barren wasteland, devoid of any distinction between shallow night and deep night, forever shrouded in boundless darkness. Uncle Meng, things have gone quite smoothly for us so far, we haven't run into any mishaps. Qinming said, exhaling in relief as he rode on the back of the Thunderbird, having already traversed the abyss-like terrain. A streak of crimson light appeared, slashing through the eternal night like the first rays of a rising sun. On the distant horizon stood a colossal city, its silhouette gradually coming into focus as they drew closer. That city was Changshao, the imperial capital of the Great Yu, and one of the 10 most renowned cities in the world of night mists, exuding an aura of majestic grandeur. Meng Xinghai remarked, the world of night mist, though rife with all manner of mysterious, unknown, and terrifying things, now possesses established roots pioneered through the ceaseless trial and error of our predecessors. By and large, these paths are safe and reliable. The majestic fortress loomed, its towering city gate adorned with layers of stacked eaves and brackets, glazed tiles shimmering with a faint golden luster in the fireglow. As Qinming and Meng Xinghai entered the city, a cacophony of noise washed over them. Transitioning from the pitch-black, desolate wilderness to this bustling metropolis felt like crossing into another world. Changshao City blazed with light, its crisscrossing streets paved with smooth, age-worn bluestone. Pedestrians thronged the thoroughfares, carriages and horses jostled through the crowds, and the air buzzed with activity. Brother Ming, over here. Wu Yaozu waved from near the city gate. Having received their message earlier, he had calculated their arrival time and been waiting for quite some time. Beside him stood a towering figure as sturdy as an iron pagoda, twice the width of an ordinary man, Shangyi Wu, the abandoned disciple of the Tathagata. You young ones should get to know each other better, Meng Xinghai said, turning to leave with Qinming after confirming their in. I'm going to visit an old friend and check on the Immortal Path disciples. Uncle Meng, I'll take you to the moon. Xiao Wu shouted after him. Let's go to the Jade Palace for drinks and music. He was quite familiar with old Meng. Meng Xinghai nearly stumbled, then vanished into the crowd atop his Thunderbird. Shang Yiwu chuckled. What kind of person is City Lord Meng? Even if there were wine and women, would he go with you? He has his own secret heavenly palace to visit. Meng Xinghai, a 4th realm cultivator of immense power, could still hear their conversation through the bustling crowd. He desperately wanted to turn back and shut their mouths. Seeing their flushed faces, Qinming remarked, you two seem to be having such a good time here that you've completely forgotten about home, you're really living the high life. It's great here, Xiao Wu said. The Great Yu imperial capital is truly magnificent, a world apart from the desolate place we used to call home. Brother Ming, you must have suffered terribly, living off the land these past few weeks. Let us treat you to a proper welcome and wash away the dust of your journey. Shang Yiwu waved his hand. Come on, let's not just stand around here. Changshao City was indeed breathtakingly prosperous. Shops lined the streets in neat rows, displaying exquisite porcelain, silk woven from the threads of fire silkworms, high-tier lifeforms, and all manner of precious goods. Every establishment was bustling with customers. Even Qinming was dazzled by the sight. This was the largest and most dazzling giant city he had ever entered, and he often paused to admire the sights. For instance, one grand antique hall even had a special section dedicated to relics of the spirits. On the bustling main street, Qinming noticed many non-human races. Groups of dog-headed people, surprisingly skilled artisans, were busy working on a newly constructed garden. Inside a master craftsman's workshop, a dragon elephant was hawking various enchanted artifacts, proclaiming, honest prices for young and old. Every item here is crafted from extraordinary materials shed during my molting and tooth-shedding phases. Meticulously refined and engraved with divine runes. I have breathed new life into them. They offer a perfect balance of offense and defense, possessing boundless, wondrous applications. An old turtle poked its head out from a nearby shop and bellowed, "Turtle jelly. Guaranteed longevity. Genuine goods at honest prices. A 200-year-old establishment. Every bowl of nourishing tonic is personally brewed by yours truly, Grandpa Turtle. If it's a fake, I'll pay you back tenfold." Grandpa Turtle, a passerby called out, "We've been drinking your tonics for generations, but none of us have lived long. Your shop saw off my great-grandfather, my grandfather, and soon it'll be my father's turn." Qinming noticed the remarkably open-minded atmosphere here. At least 1 in 10 people was a non-human entity. Ahead, a golden-purple rat and a tabby cat walked upright, arms slung around each other's shoulders. On the other side, a golden-haired old ape rode leisurely through the bustling market on the back of a white lion. Rumor has it that divine creatures sometimes roam the great Yu imperial capital, experiencing mortal life. Shang Yiwu remarked. Wu Yaozu chimed in, "Brother Wu, let's aim to marry a divine-like wife in the future." Shang Yiwu grinned. "It's not even nightfall yet, and you're already drunk." Qinming chuckled. "You two really are letting yourselves go completely." Xiaowu chuckled slyly. "Brother Ming, all this revelry and carousing I'm doing, isn't it really just to scout the path ahead for you?" "Don't pin everything on me," Qinming said with a smile. The guy was remarkably adaptable, already becoming quite the seasoned veteran. As they chatted, they arrived at the city's most bustling street, where every inch of land was worth its weight in gold. This prime location bordered a great river that flowed through the city like a shimmering jade sash. Under the night sky, the Shuyu River shimmered brilliantly. Paper lanterns filled the air, painted barges clustered in groups, and the air resonated with the delicate melodies of zithers and flutes. High above, butterfly maidens from a non-human race danced gracefully against the night sky, her snow-white gown fluttering like an immortal maiden descending from the heavens. Wu Yaozu said, "Brother Ming, we've arranged for us to stay here tonight. Tomorrow evening, we'll head to the moon ascent. You see, visiting the heavenly palace requires a reservation in advance." The riverbanks of the Shuyu River were lined with silver willows and purple wisteria, special plants nourished by the fire spring. Each willow swayed like a silver silk ribbon, while every wisteria vine shimmered with purple-gold light. The silvery glow and purplish radiance intertwined, creating an exceptionally dazzling spectacle against the night. The riverside street teemed with activity. Even without boarding a painted barge for a river cruise, simply strolling along the bank to admire the scenery drew large crowds. Shang Yiwu and Xiao Wu led Qinming to join the queue to board a painted barge when they suddenly spotted a familiar face on the shore. "Oh, trouble. Brother Ming, sister-in-law is over there, don't let her catch you red-handed." Xiao Wu whispered urgently, trying to pull Qinming around. But with Shang Yiwu's massive frame beside them, they were impossible to miss. Qinming quickly shook him off. "Stop acting like a thief. You're making trouble out of nothing." Willow branches swayed gently, dappled with silvery moonlight. Li Qingyu stood as an immortal maiden descended to the mortal realm, her white robes fluttering in the night breeze, her waist more slender than the silver willows lining the shore. Her bright eyes sparkled as she glanced in their direction. 2 other women stood beside her, both equally striking. One was a young woman dressed in the robes of the esoteric sect, an emblem embroidered on her sleeve marking her as a divine seed. Her dignified beauty radiated a sacred aura. Qinming recognized the other woman, he had once served her during their exploration of the Yin Earth Ghost Cultivators, colossal palace ruins. She was 4th Princess Yao Ruoxian of Great Yu, a peer of the top-tier immortal seeds. Clad in a fiery red gown that resembled a divine lotus enveloping her, her fair skin and autumn water eyes exuded both beauty and an otherworldly allure. The 3 women first noticed Shang Yiwu's imposing figure, then spotted Qinming and Xiao Wu. Qinming nodded in greeting, waving through the crowd. Immortal Li, Xiao Wu greeted warmly, refraining from calling her sister-in-law in public. Joking in private was one thing, but such informality in front of so many people would be disrespectful to a seed of the immortal path. Shang Yiwu, hailing from the Tathagata sect, had wide connections and knew all 3 women. He sent a telepathic message, "Immortal Li, Goddess Zhao, 4th Princess. Zhao Qingcheng, from an immortal great sect, possessed extraordinary beauty but radiated an aloofness. Within the esoteric sect, she held immense status, rivaling Cheng Sheng as a divine seed. The three women responded with simple acknowledgements. Immortal maidens, would you like to join us? Xiao Wu asked, hoping to explain the situation to Brother Ming. Nearby, perched upon a silver willow branch, a four-winged bird, barely a foot in length, bristled with indignation. Have you no shame? It squawked. You board a pleasure boat to carouse with courtesans, yet you expect our princess and two immortal maidens to join you. That is simply outrageous. Many eyes turned toward them, who on earth possessed the gall to speak so boldly. For a moment, the area fell into a stunned silence. It was a moment of sheer, excruciating awkwardness, a sensation that Qin Ming, Xiao Wu, and Shang Yiwu had never in their lives experienced before. Instantly, the silence was shattered into a cacophony of chatter and murmurs. Many in the crowd pointed fingers and whispered amongst themselves, deeming the three men utterly audacious, and insatiable greed utterly outrageous. Qin Ming was seized by a sudden pang of regret. Back when he had first demonstrated his archery skills, he had merely shaved the feathers off this bird's head. He should have blasted this wretched creature to smithereens. This is an elegant outing, Xiao Wu declared. We're boarding this barge to admire the moon, gaze into the distance, contemplate the past, present, and future, and even pay homage to the Shuyu River god, immersing ourselves in the mystical beauty of this land. The four-winged bird scoffed. Oh, give it a rest. Just the other day, I saw you and that hulking brute running over here to drink with the courtesans, spending the night on a pleasure boat, acting like drunken fools, and bellowing about, lifting a lamp to gaze upon a sword while drunk. Ha ha. The regulars chuckled knowingly. Xiao Wu wanted to strangle the bird. Why does this feathered pest always haunt such places? And why is it such a blabbermouth? Is it just jealous it can't afford its own night of debauchery? Qin Ming quickly restrained him. Don't lower yourself by arguing with a bird. We'll meet again next time, Qin Ming said, and the two groups parted ways. However, moments later, they crossed paths once again, standing at a distance and facing one another. Shortly after Qin Ming and his companions boarded their pleasure boat, a magnificent treasure ship slowly sailed past nearby. Standing at the bow were three young women, ethereal beauties who looked as if they had stepped right out of a painting. With their raven hair and flowing robes fluttering in the breeze, they exuded an air of extraordinary transcendence. They had the nerve to criticize us. Aren't they doing the same thing, boarding a boat for a night cruise? Xiao Wu grumbled indignantly. Shang Yiwu said, that is the princess's private vessel, it is not one of the pleasure boats from this establishment. Brother Ming, Xiao Wu asked, did you, really, come here just to eat? The two noticed Qin Ming was genuinely starving, devouring the dishes without even listening to the music or paying much attention to the butterfly women's aerial dance. What else would I be here for? Qin Ming asked. Wu Yaozu whispered, the reason the Shuyu River enjoys such immense fame, drawing so many people here for a night cruise, is due to a rumor that a divine spirit might reside within its waters. Qin Ming was startled. A divine creature living in the great Yu imperial capital. Shang Yiwu nodded. Indeed. It is said to be a deity officially recognized by Great Yu, one that is not subject to conquest. Instead, they utilize her to oversee the various waterways, ensuring favorable weather and bountiful harvests throughout the region. Qin Ming was astonished. Was this a rare example of cooperation between humans and divine spirits? Ordinary people certainly wouldn't have the power to utilize such a divine creature. Shang Yiwu continued, occasionally, the Shuyu River's divine spirit invites those she deems worthy to her divine mansion as guests. That's why this place is always bustling. Tonight, the fourth princess of Great Yu is here. Perhaps the divine creature will extend another invitation. However, despite their leisurely cruise lasting late into the night, they saw no one being summoned to the divine mansion. Just then, a large ship slowly approached from the opposite direction. Three men on board gazed toward them, drawing the attention of Shang Yiwu and Xiao Wu. Sun elves. Shang Yiwu exclaimed in surprise. Qin Ming looked across the river. The three men were slender and more beautiful than many women, each with long, golden hair cascading to their waists, making them strikingly conspicuous. Most importantly, they radiated an aura of the immortal Tao, resembling immortal path disciples even more than those from the beyond the mortal realm. What magnificent bearing! They looked just like banished immortals. Across the river, passengers on other pleasure boats, their vision blurred by drink, murmured their admiration, feeling as though these three men were indeed immortals who had descended from the heavens to walk among mortals. What do you mean, banished immortals? They're just blondies. Xiao Wu muttered under his breath. One of the sun elves, distinguished by a crimson, mystical mark resembling a vertical eye between his brows, turned his gaze toward Qin Ming's group. Their heavenly light shimmers like a rainbow, layered with coiled lightning. These three are no ordinary mortals, he murmured, using a special ocular technique to discern glimpses of their true nature. These appear to be three, Guards, mere servants of an immortal seed. No need to concern ourselves with them, another sun elf replied in the ancient elven tongue. Soon, the two ships passed each other without incident, the waters remaining calm and undisturbed. Gradually, a thick mist rose from the surface of the Shuyu River. Even with the paper lanterns drifting skyward and the fiery springs on the banks casting their glow, the scene remained shrouded in a hazy, deeply mysterious aura. Could it be the divine spirit has arrived? Is he truly about to invite his distinguished guests into the divine mansion? Xiao Wu's eyes lit up with excitement. Shang Yiwu nodded. It's highly possible. Legend has it that members of the great Yu imperial family can enter the divine mansion directly. Tonight, some may be basking in the princess's favor. Moments later, they noticed Yao Ruoxian's treasure ship upstream, enveloped in a layer of mystical radiance. Then, three consciousnesses emerged from the ship and plunged into the Shuyu River. Were they truly taken by the divine spirit being? Qin Ming's awakening eye clearly observed the scene. The mystical radiance enveloping the ship was clearly meant to protect the three women's physical bodies. Soon, their own ship was enveloped in the same radiance. Instantly, Qin Ming and his companions felt drowsy, their vision blurring with sleepiness. But just as they were about to succumb, the light receded like a receding tide. Faintly, they heard a pair of young voices expressing dissatisfaction. The spiritual light is strong, but only one of them barely qualifies. The other two are just guards. Let's go. They're not worthy of attending the banquet, another attendant said. Almost simultaneously, clarity returned to the three men's eyes. Did you hear that? We've been rejected. How infuriating. Qin Ming realized they were subordinates of a divine creature. These spirits were often conservative, adhering to ancient methods and likely disdainful of the guards in the ancient immortal Taoist temples. Their views hadn't changed even in this era. I've even entered the Tao lineage of the great spirit of Black and White Mountain, he thought. This river god is putting on quite the show. Those three, blondies, got invited, and even those outsiders were allowed to attend the banquet. This river god is truly lacking in hospitality. Xiao Wu grumbled. The sun elves' vessel was now enveloped in a divine radiance, shrouded in a thick, ethereal mist. Having drunk too much, Xiao Wu's stomach felt bloated, and his dissatisfaction grew. He slipped away to a secluded spot and relieved himself downstream. The three sun elves had just entered the water when they witnessed this scene. They froze in shock, then their eyes blazed with fury. Splish splash. Splash. Hearing the sound, both Qin Ming and Shang Yiwu were left speechless. Their buddy was truly drunk. Whoa, why am I seeing double? Why are there two streams of water? The alcohol must be going to my head. Wait, no, why are there four now? Gah, now there are 8. Xiao Wu looked down and let out a horrified shriek. Qin Ming and Shang Yiwu were equally stunned to see 8 distinct water lines shimmering on the river's surface. The shock instantly sobered up Wu Yaozu. He hurriedly cinched his belt, realizing that he had likely just offended the river god. At that moment, their large ship was once again enveloped in divine radiance. They felt their senses fading, their consciousness being pulled from their bodies. They were being invited to the banquet once more. But this time, none of them wanted to go. Xiao Wu wailed, Sister River God, I beg for mercy. I was wrong. Shang Yiwu added in a low voice, Divine Spirit being above, we are not disciples of any immortal sect or divine sanctuary, we are not worthy to attend such a banquet. At the very last moment, Qin Ming frantically groped around, trying to see if he could find any artifacts he had brought back from Black and White Mountain. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel, Night Without Borders. Chapter 275, The Sun Elf Clan's Astonishing Achievements in Immortal Path Cultivation. Author, Chen Dong. Translator, Shadow Knight AK. Editor, Shadow Knight AK. The Shuyu River shimmered with the glow of floating paper lanterns, its surface rippling with golden reflections that resembled a starry river flowing slowly through Chongshao City. As the three of them plunged into the river, they were all filled with considerable reluctance. Wu Yaozu, now sober, shivered violently, his regret palpable. He was terrified that this drunken plunge into the water might very well be the end of him, that it would send him on his way to the afterlife. The river flowed like a jade ribbon, its waters teeming with swaying aquatic plants and schools of fish, shrimp, and ancient turtles. Reaching the riverbed, they found no trace of a divine spirit being's dwelling, only swirling white mist. Shang Yiwu declared, the divine pure land exists beyond the realm of reality. Qin Ming, having experienced this before, recalled being targeted by the lingering spirit of a near-divine great centipede and drawn into an unknown realm within the night mist world. He carefully suppressed his aura, lest his heavenly light force, infused with consciousness and divine wisdom, shine too brightly, like a miniature sun sinking into the riverbed. As they approached the white mist, the scenery abruptly transformed. A path paved with pristine white shells stretched into the void, leading into the depths of the night mist. Compelled forward, they followed the path until it opened into a realm as bright as day. Walls of vibrant coral, intricately woven like a dreamlike brocade, surrounded the area. A massive, flawless crystal had been carved into a grand gate. The divine spirit being's residence was indeed magnificent beyond compare. Auspicious haze swirled around it, golden armored guards stood watch, and feather-robed maidens attended, making it feel like stepping into an immortal palace. The three of them advanced into a giant palace. Here, both the potted landscapes and the walls were inlaid with enormous luminous pearls, radiating a soft glow. Coiling dragon serpents adorned the golden pillars, and melodious music filled the air as immortal maidens danced gracefully, creating an atmosphere of serene harmony. Within the palace, 3 members of the Sun Elf clan were led by attendants to jade tables, where servants offered them fine wines and rare delicacies. Even spiritual bodies can consume food here, these must be extraordinarily nourishing supplements. Lady River God, this junior acknowledges my error, Xuanhuan immediately humbled himself upon entering. The 3 of them noticed that no attendants guided them to seats, and there were no extra jade tables. At the highest point of the grand palace, a curtain of pearls hung suspended. Through the shimmering veil and the swirling white mists beyond, a dragon throne, crafted from the legendary 7 treasures of mythology, could be dimly perceived. Upon it sat a woman with her cloud-like tresses pinned high atop her head. She remained silent, as if scrutinizing the 3 visitors. Li Qingyu, Yao Ruoxian, and Zhao Qingcheng were seated closest to the beaded curtain, clearly receiving special attention from the river god. Rumors of a deep connection between the great Yu imperial family and this divine spirit seem to be true. As your superiors, we find your disrespect outside the divine palace utterly intolerable, a sun spirit declared. In our clan, such insolence would warrant the burning of your bodies and souls, returning you to the light. Having been infuriated by Xiao Wu's actions downstream, they were now seizing the opportunity to curry favor. Xiao Wu desperately wanted to retort that in Chongshao City, many people routinely washed clothes, bathed, and even relieved themselves in the river without divine reprisal. Children often urinated into the water without consequence. Today's incident was purely a matter of the river god's whims, leaving him at her mercy. However, he couldn't stand the sight of these 3 sun spirits. What right did outsiders have to speak in this divine palace? Wu Yaozu, never one to let an insult fester, turned his head and snapped, "Yellow-haired brat, who asked for your opinion? Stop spouting nonsense." The giant palace fell silent. Deep within the eyes of the 3 male sun spirits, golden radiance flickered, but they remained composed, refraining from retaliation. Their gazes shifted toward the beaded curtain behind them. The river god spoke, "All who enter this abode are guests, but you 3 have shown disrespect by daring to speak ill of the divine behind my back." A hand formed from misty radiance extended, rapidly enlarging. With a swift motion, it swept Qin Ming, Xiao Wu, and Shang Yiwu toward the beaded curtain. "Your ladyship, they harbored no intent to offend," Li Qingyu interjected. At that moment, the pendant around Xiao Wu's neck began to glow, and a benevolent old woman materialized, radiating a brilliant golden radiance. "You come from Kunling?" the river god asked, her eyes widening in surprise as she gazed at Xiao Wu. The multicolored hand dissolved into a luminous mist, and the 3 youths landed on the ground. Wu Yaozu felt that in this critical moment, they had to rely on his grandmother's divine intervention. He immediately nodded and declared, "Yes. And you?" The woman asked Shang Yiwu from her throne crafted from 7 treasures. "I am a disciple of the Tathagata sect," the burly young man replied. "Considering your youth and ignorance." The river god began, then turned to Qin Ming, asking him which Dao lineage he belonged to. Strictly speaking, Qin Ming was a rogue cultivator. He had only briefly joined the Mountain and River Academy before being forced to leave, leaving him with no established background. However, the river god was clearly traditionalist. Without a respectable lineage, she would hardly regard a guard as worthy of her attention. Qin Ming produced 2 leaves, one black and one white, distinctly contrasting. He then activated a jade pendant from the 6 Imperial Ancestral Court, employing both measures simultaneously. "Very well, you may leave," the woman with her hair piled high in a cloud-like bun said. Though her expression remained hidden behind the swirling mist, it was clear she held the trio in low regard. With a wave of her hand, she swept the trio out of the giant palace, banishing them from its hallowed halls. As they departed, Qin Ming and Shang Yiwu distinctly overheard members of the Sun Elf clan consulting Yao Ruoxian and Zhao Qingcheng. "Immortal maidens," a Sun Elf asked, "could you enlighten us? Although our clan has acquired the techniques of immortal cultivation, we remain perplexed regarding those of dull aptitude, those with no innate affinity for the immortal path, such as the 3 individuals who just departed. How, precisely, does one go about enhancing the strength of such individuals? We, too, wish to set our own kin, those of lesser talent, upon this path. We have heard that a mature and comprehensive cultivation system exists here." Qin Ming, Shang Yiwu, and Little Wu nearly turned back to storm right back in. Yet, they held back, suppressing their impulse. The Sun Elf might have spoken those words deliberately to provoke them, hoping to lure them back inside, which would amount to a second transgression against the river god's authority. As the three of them left, they spotted Pei Shuyan, Kui Chong, Sun Jingxiao, and others arriving. The river god had invited multiple groups of destined individuals, and these immortal seeds had caught her eye. Even the rugged Shang Yiwu felt his composure waver. How could the disparity between people be so vast? They were being cast out while others were welcomed as honored guests. He felt certain they could easily suppress immortal seeds like Li Qingshu and Sun Jingxiao, yet they lacked the qualifications to attend the banquet. It's all my fault, Wu Yaozu lamented, deeply remorseful. I've been too arrogant lately, indulging in reckless behavior and offending the divine spirit being. He solemnly apologized to his companions. This has nothing to do with you, Qinming said, shaking his head. It was clear the river god had never intended to invite the three of them. The ancient hierarchy between gods and immortals was deeply ingrained in her very being, forming an immutable worldview. The three of them returned to their physical bodies and instantly awoke. The wine had lost its flavor, so they immediately went ashore. That river god might be a flood dragon, Shang Yiwu murmured. Wu Yaozu communicated telepathically, Brother Ming, are you still missing dragon qi? I wonder if this divine spirit happens to have any within his divine palace. Clearly, he, too, had misunderstood the situation, assuming that Qinming was in pursuit of the four sacred demonic essences. However, if the legendary Azure Dragon sacred demonic essence were indeed present here, it would be exactly what Qinming needed. Qinming shook his head. No matter how desperately he needed it, he couldn't bring himself to ask a divine spirit for such a thing. Today's events had made one thing clear: as an awakener, his status remained low and his strength insufficient. Otherwise, he would have been an honored guest at the table. In fact, if he hadn't leveraged his connections and put on a show of power, the river god might have punished him. Upon reflection, his two brothers were both from prestigious backgrounds, while his own situation was rather unremarkable, and his resources were limited. We need to rise quickly, Qinming declared. And become divine spirits and ancestors, Shang Yiwu agreed with a heavy nod. Late that night, they returned to the inn. Qinming sat quietly in his room, diligently refining demonic essence. Without the aid of a thunderstorm or the Thunderfire Alchemy Hall, this was an extremely dangerous endeavor. Every legendary otherworldly essence would inevitably shorten one's lifespan. Even Qinming had to gradually acclimate himself before attempting to fuse the four sacred demonic essences. As expected, after a particularly intense attempt, the White Tiger demonic essence alone cost him several years of lifespan. Horrified, he realized that fully fusing the sacred demonic essences would require burning through at least a century or two of his lifespan, a death warrant from the underworld itself. Qinming's expression turned grave. Legendary grade demonic essence was terrifying, even many geniuses throughout history had dared not touch it, as it could claim lives without hesitation. Who could endure such a risk? Adding to the lifespan he had already lost while refining demonic essence in Chongshao City, he had now sacrificed a total of 30 years of his lifespan. To proceed safely, he would need to wait for the arrival of a thunderstorm, an opportunity to absorb beneficial celestial energies that promote longevity, such as the purple qi from the east, or auspicious fortune. These energies would serve as a counterbalancing force. In truth, he had already absorbed a significant amount of heavenly light while refining the yin-yang diagram in the Kunling Pagoda. He now worried that he might have developed a resistance to some of the rarer and gentler types of heavenly light. If that were the case, his premature consumption of life force might be irreversible. It shouldn't be too serious, right? According to the research information Qingyu gave me about beyond the mortal realm, there are still plenty of extraordinary heavenly lights. I don't need to worry too much. However, if he were to break through, it would be best to undergo awakening again. Otherwise, a breakthrough would merely replenish his lifespan to its proper length, without truly extending it. Not only would that be a poor return on investment, but it would also seem unnatural. In truth, the main issue was that Qinming had chosen demonic essences that were too powerful, all of legendary grade. Before adapting to them, his body was under immense strain. To wear the crown, one must bear its weight. If he wanted to master the peerless heavenly light force, he naturally needed to take risks and pay the corresponding price. In the worst-case scenario, he still had the auspicious beast blood as a safety net. I'll gradually adapt, refining the demonic essences cautiously each day. The next day, Meng Xinghai arrived to inform him of the results of his negotiations with the Immortal Path. They really won't release the hawk until they see the rabbit. Currently, Beyond the Mortal Realm has only provided a portion of the auspicious beast blood as a deposit. The promised demonic essences had yet to be delivered. Meng Xinghai explained, they believe it would be shameful to ask the Path of Awakening for help unless necessary. They want the immortal seeds to try first. However, the situation looked grim. The second realm immortal seeds were vulnerable to the Sun Spirit clan's exceptional talents. Their golden flames could easily overwhelm the consciousness spiritual light of the Immortal Path disciples. In the third realm, the Immortal Path disciples fared better, having already undergone preliminary tribulation crossing or been tempered by immortal fire. Later that very day, news arrived. The Immortal Path disciples had suffered 2 consecutive defeats in the second realm duels, leaving both of their immortal seeds scorched and utterly humiliated. Xiaohu approached Qin Ming, saying, "Brother Ming, I heard the Immortal Path disciples were utterly crushed. They'll probably have to ask the Path of Awakening for backup now, right?" He had originally planned to ask Qin Ming to ascend to the moon and visit the Jade Palace, but now they had to postpone their plans and focus on serious preparations. That evening, news broke that the Immortal Path had actually requested 2 divine seeds to participate in the battles the next day. The Beyond the Mortal Realm found it acceptable to ask the secret sect for help, given their shared origins in the ancient Immortal Dao lineage. Unfortunately, news arrived swiftly the next day. The first divine seed had already been defeated. A wave of shock swept through all factions. Many outsiders, unaware of the Immortal Path's reliance on external aid, only knew that they had suffered 3 consecutive defeats in the second realm competitions. If you have the guts, stick to your pride and let the Sun Elf clan completely dominate the second realm. Qin Ming muttered to himself. He knew without a doubt that some within the Immortal Path harbored deep-seated pride. They considered themselves the rightful heirs to the ancient Immortal Dao lineage and couldn't bear the humiliation of defeat. Yet the Sun Elf clan, with their mastery of immortal cultivation, held a clear advantage in this domain. Qin Ming understood that since the Immortal Path had summoned him to Chongshao City in advance, they would inevitably call upon the Path of Awakening to intervene when all else failed. Soon, even worse news arrived for the Immortal Path. Their hired reinforcement, the second, even more powerful divine seed, had also been defeated. By this point, amidst the uproar of the outside world, the disciples of the Immortal Path had suffered a humiliating 4 consecutive defeats in their low to mid-level sparring matches, leaving them with absolutely no room left to retreat. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel.